started. Good evening, everyone. It is Monday evening, about a little after, and we'll go ahead and start and see if we have any questions and or comments.
Ron, I have a question. You
Okay.
know, yesterday when we talked about the article that Pastor had sent out to everyone, and
Uh-huh.
it talked about how these people were assembling, not in a building, but they came together and then they would uh, go over scripture and then they would disband and go do things in the community. And I'm I was thinking about that. They are assembling, but they're not in a brick and mortar building. So can you elaborate on the way they are assembling on kind of like the way that we are doing it now and not in a building? Do you understand my question?
Yes. Are you on? Okay. And I was asking Pastor, but I'd like him to elaborate as well. I did see some similarities when we talked about that. Uh, Stepping out of the norm, stepping out of the traditional way of doing things, and what I like most about what they did is the pastor saw that uh, this thing was broken. He saw that he wasn't reaching people, and that the attendance was doing. So I like what he did. I love it. I don't know increased his numbers or anything like that, but it sounds like it at least.
Right.
Hello.
Right.
Yes,
You,
sir.
you going in and out. I can hardly hear you. You be going in and out.
Linda was too.
Okay, better. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I heard you before, but your words keep cutting in and out as you talk.
Okay. Well, let me know if it does it again. I'll get up and switch rooms, move to a different room. Okay. But what I was saying was the similarities of what we do. And both of us did made the moves on necessity, and did not try to go against the grain and get back in the building and try to force things to happen. So he too saw the need of trying to reach the community, and making an effort to step outside of the box to do so, as we have done. This was something that was uh, we happened into based on what was necessary at the time, and still necessary at the time, but me has a sort of a different feel to it, a different type of journey to it than sitting in the building. Certainly, I like the fact that it's able to reach more people. And as Lamont pointed out yesterday, with his schedule, it helps him because he doesn't miss anything. So he has opportunity any day of the week, any day that that we're having service, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, no matter where he is. So yeah, I did see similar. The one thing I love though, Linda, was it's something about putting your hands in soil, helping things to grow and planting seeds, and I think that was extremely spiritual. So so for something like that to come to him to do, I think you are able to reach people in a manner that you may not have done opening the book and giving traditional services. So that's my take on it. Does anybody else have a different opinion or want to add something to that.
Ron,
Hi,
also,
Ron.
excuse me. What I was going to say was, you know, when we left the church, everybody was feeling some type of way. And so I've asked several people, how do you feel about, you know, not being in the church, you know, in the building now? And they surprisingly, they think about it and they said, well, it doesn't bother me anymore, because the fact is, like what Lamont was saying, I don't care where I go now, I can always plug into the services. And if we were back in the building, I would miss because I would have something to do, but I can always take time, put my earbuds in. I can be sitting somewhere in a crowd and nobody ever have to know that I'm in service, you know. And so when I read that article, that's what I was thinking about. And when you talked about the soil, just think about the growth. That his growth is growing.
Yeah, that part really stood out to me. I really like that. So, just to address what you said though about people feeling some kind of way, I went back. My thoughts went back to what I was telling you about praying over the food, and my mom getting a little annoyed with me because I didn't pray the way she taught us to pray as kids. I think we sort of, when it comes to spiritual and religious things, or religious things more so, we are caught up in how we've always done things in the past, and those things have brought us a lot of comfort. And you know, if you think about it, every one of us growing up, you felt safe at the church. It felt good to go, even as little kids. A lot of times we went kicking and screaming, but you went knowing that you were going somewhere different. This wasn't just going to the mall or going somewhere. This had a different feel to it. So for us to step away from that, something that has been tradition for so long, yeah, I think it has felt different. It's something that I think we've all, I hope, embraced and feel comfortable with, and hopefully we'll have opportunity, even when we have opportunity rather, to go back in the building. I still hope we include the Zoom as part of our service. I think it has been extremely beneficial. Anyone else? Linda, I don't know if I answered your question or not, but yeah, I do see similarities. Yeah.
You did. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions or comments?
I have a comment, Ron.
Yes, sir.
When the American Native, when they came to this country, I don't know if I had said it once before like this. What was this country named, or what did it call this country before America came over and called it America? Or the English came over and called it America?
Charles, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think we bothered to ask them or even cared what they called it. It was, you know, something that no European had ever been here. So when he stepped foot on it, officially it became whatever he wanted it to be. So I don't know. That is a good question. It's something I've pondered before myself, and I don't have any idea.
Okay. Is it anywhere that it could be researched or asked real about this?
when he comes on, I'll ask him, but if not, I'll try to research it and have
Okay.
an answer.
Okay.
Suppose they didn't call it anything. Suppose the land that they didn't name the land at all.
Yeah.
That because there was no ownership of land, and there was no sense of anyone taking land from anyone. And look at what happened. Columbus and the rest of the thieves and rapists came to the land and was embraced by the indigenous people in this land, and they ended up being enslaved, murdered, robbed, all the rest of it. So suppose they just didn't call it anything. When you name something, you are establishing possession. So I'm not saying that you can't research it and find something out. However, I would find it difficult to see how they would name the whole landmass when they did not name individual parts of the land. The Dakotas were indigenous people. That's what they called themselves. So
Yeah. And I remember reading something in Africa, like Mount Kilimanjaro. It wasn't called that. The indigenous people had a name for it, but it was because they thought it was sacred. It was because they thought it was something or spiritual about it, not for the reasons that we would think.
Some of them called it Turtle Island.
Turtle Island.
Some of the indigenous people called it Turtle Island, and
Okay.
because it's based on the North American indigenous people's creation story.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Hey, good question.
Good afternoon, evening. I have a question, and it's not pertaining to that, but it's back to the tradition. And Jesus said that you follow the traditions of your father. Are there, not sure how I want to phrase it, but are there spiritual traditions or things that are there spiritual traditions?
Yes.
And what are they?
Main spiritual tradition is meditation. The other spiritual traditions are loving kindness, mercy. All the attributes of the kingdom are spiritual traditions. Our respect for the earth, being respectful of the animals that inhabit the earth. A number of things that we do that we cannot see, but we can we experience it through manifestation. That makes sense, Mary?
Oh, that makes sense, because I was trying to think, what in the world do we have as spiritual tradition? So that makes sense. We just have to act on it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I like it, sir. Yeah. Anyone else? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pastor.
Based on the question that Mary asked, may I elaborate a moment?
Of course.
There was no such thing as gatherings to worship the way that we do now. Prior to the establishment and labeling of religions and their rituals, people simply came together to get an understanding of our responsibilities to the earth and our understanding of the spiritual being that brought us into existence. There was not a lot of emphasis put on the rituals until religion saw the advantage of using these rituals to make people feel guilty if they did not participate in them. Look at what happened with Jesus. John said, I baptize you with water, but one will come after me who will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. So that in itself removed the ritual of water baptism, and in its place was the spiritual baptism by the Spirit itself, being immersed in understanding and the wisdom of the spiritual essence of our being. So if we were to look beyond that, the only other thing that Jesus did pretty much in a physical way that could be called a ritual was communion. And we've discussed how spiritual that is, and how Jesus made the statement that it was as often as it takes for you to remember me or remember the teachings. And the other thing that may be considered a ritual, I don't know, is the actual gathering in a school or gathering to have lessons and to teach about what's the spiritual essence of the book and the spiritual essence of our being. So again, I don't see physical rituals that were imposed upon anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Great start. Any questions about what Pastor said? Any comments? Okay. Any other questions that you might have?
Yesterday, when Barbara was talking about her kids not being where she would like them to be spiritually, my words, not hers. She said, I don't trust the church to do it. That was profound. That touched me. It touched a lot of us on this phone. Because from her lips flowed something that we knew deeply inside, but had never spoke it. And there were some who heard those words and they were felt like that was blasphemy, but understood that it wasn't. Don't feel like you were wrong. That's what you felt. That's what you felt. What I experienced was the depth of a truth that we had embraced but not verbalized. And I'm very grateful for that. However, if you felt uncomfortable about it, that's fine. You felt the way you felt, and don't beat yourself up about it, and don't deny what you felt. However, I also think that that's something for us to ponder, because there are different aspects of what we are learning that are totally different than what we were taught that make people feel some kind of way. So there are going to be other things more than likely that we are going to be shown that's going to fall from someone's lips, that's going to cause some discomfort in some, but going to resonate so deeply with others until they gasp. Does that make sense? And Barbara, I hope I said it at least partially the way you presented it yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make sense. It makes sense to me.
And I agree, what you said, Rev, because if the church would have been on the ball better than they've been doing through all this century, none of us would be in this mess.
Well, Charles, I agree with you. By the same token, I also believe it was necessary. There's no way to be a creator if you don't create. And we've talked about, even within the boundaries of the church, being co-creative. But what did we ever create? Creation is not learning how to build a house. The wood is already available through creation. So you're taking what's available and reshaping it so that it can become something that you want. Creation involves humanity. In order for us to epitomize the essence of Elohim, we must create. We cannot create until we know who we are and understand the principles of the kingdom. Our creation looks different because we have never taught it or talked about it. Neither has anyone ventured to understand what does it mean to be co-creative. If Elohim created in its likeness and image, then, and its likeness and image brought into existence the first beings on this earth in Africa, then it seems to me the logical thing is the creators have to create something in their likeness and image, as did Elohim. And that likeness and image cannot be the image of religion, hatred, racism, dissension, blame, none of that. The likeness is spiritual. The image and likeness is spiritual. Moving humanity to a place that their minds are no longer controlled by the energy of an animalistic attitude, which breeds selfishness and greed and bring other people to a place of enslavement and treated them as though they were not humans. Bringing those attitudes to a place of balance where loving kindness prevails and forgiveness is seen as being the foundation of everything. And so when we talk about the mess, it is indeed that, Charles, but in a different sense. It is up to us to bring order to the mess. And in order to bring order to the mess, as you labeled it, Charles, we must understand how to do that spiritually. And when we do that spiritually, then we will be creating in the image and likeness of those of us who are Elohim, who embrace Elohim, rather, because all of us are Elohim. We just don't embrace that because we have been taught not to embrace it. We have been told it is impossible for us to be Elohim yet. The scripture says that we are the image and likeness of Elohim. So I don't understand how Elohim could be spiritual and we the image and likeness of Elohim, And the scripture tells us that, did I not say that you, did the scriptures not say that I say ye are gods? That's what the scripture says. So if we are walking with the understanding of the Holy Book, then we understand who we are, even though it may be difficult for us to embrace it. It is our responsibility to make sure others see through their eye so they can see who they are as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Just kind of a follow-up, just a thought I had, going back to Barbara's statement. I also appreciate the and it's something we take for granted is the freedom that we have on this line is to make those kind of statements, and most of, if not all, the people understand what was said and the power behind it. But you know, things that you couldn't say in regular settings, that's part of the creation that you're talking about. Made space for this kind of growth, and it feels comfortable, it feels good, it feels right, and nobody's offended by it. So yeah, I think that's part of it as well. Anyone else? Questions or comments? I think I see something in First Samuel, that first chapter. I was gonna invite you guys to look at with me if you don't mind. First Samuel, the first chapter. I have looked at just this first chapter, but if you guys see something else, of course, as always, feel free to venture on and look at some other things that grab your attention. This caught my eye because I see us as a Samuel. I think as we study and move and transform or whatever's happening with us, I see us more sort of as functions more than just individual people, more of a energy moving and a movement than just somebody studying. And the name Samuel can have it not complicated, but it has several layers. It means a name of God. It comes from Shem, a Shema, and El. El, of course, means God. Shem means a name, a light, sound, or the atmosphere. Shema means to hear or to listen. So to hear and light and sound all speak of vibrations. So if we are a type of Samuel, then we are moving ourselves into being a type of recognizing that we are a type of Elohim that brings enlightenment and by positive light vibrations into the earth. So how did we get here? How does that take place? And if you will, I'm going to look at these verses. I'm started at verse 1 and kind of walk through it. And I'm not looking at every verse. Of course, you are welcome to do so if you see something. Okay. Verse 1 says, "Now there was a certain man from Ramatham, and that's pronounced Sophim, Ramatham Sophim, from the hills country of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jethoram, and the son of Elihu, and the son of Tuhu, and the son of Zuppah, the Ephraimites." Okay, now that sounds so simple, because we see verses like this all the time that says this one begotten that one, this is the son of his, this is the son of this. But suppose that's talking about a journey, the journey that it has taken for this energy wave, for this mankind to turn into the energy that he becomes a Samuel. He is man and Elohim. He is man who is vibration in the earth. So most of the time when you study Samuel and look at this verse, the focus has been on Hannah. But I looked at, I'm sorry, somebody has something? Okay. I looked at this and looked at some of the names, like for example, Ramatha Sophim means to stand high, or the height of a watcher, someone who's watching over. It means to take high places, to be exalted or to rise. The second half of the word means to look out or to look about or to spy on or keep watch. And I hope can tie all this together. I'm just looking at some of the names. Elkanah means God has created, or God has taken possession of, or God has acquired. So Jerotham is he may be compassionate. It means to have compassion. So what I'm saying is, if you look at these, all of these mean something, and all of them are a journey. And as an example Pastor gave earlier, I'm trying to remember what was said. My mind just went blank. But as when Pastor was giving an example earlier, all of these names that we see, like for example, Eli and Eli's two sons, and Pelenah, who was one of the wives, all of them aren't positive. But again, they're all necessary. They're all necessary. So I'm gonna read the rest of this, and again, if you can see this as a journey and see the friction between the two women as being necessary to spark this whole thing into action. Okay, and he had two wives. Name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other was Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Now this man will go up from his city yearly and worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And his two sons of Eli, Hophni and Pinos, were priests in the Lord to the Lord there. And when the day came, the Elkanah sacrifice, he would give portions to I keep messing up her name. Where is it? I got it written down. Peninnah, his wife, and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he would give double portions, for he loved Hannah. But the Lord had closed her womb. Her rival, however, will provoke her bitterly to irritate her, because the Lord had closed her womb. And it happened year after year, as often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she would provoke her, so she wept and would not eat. Then Elkanah her husband said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? And why do you, your heart saying, am I not better to you than 10 sons? And here is the turning point. Then Hannah rose up from eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting in the secret doorway of the temple of the Lord, and she was greatly distressed, prayed to the Lord, and wept bitterly. She made a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if indeed you look upon my affliction, thy handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thy maidservant, but will give thy maidservant a son, that I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and a razor should never come on his head. Now, what this is showing is several things. This thing is loaded with information. Like, for example, where it talks about her womb. Again, I think there's some information there that this womb is creating space that we maybe we'll visit again at some point. But the womb here again is masculine. This is the masculine part. This is talking about, and it is the masculine womb that is talking about to have compassion, to embrace something or have compassion on it. So that was one part that I thought was interesting, and have mercy. The other one, though, this does not happen if she does not provoked by her rival. This does not take place. So what am I? That if we are a type of Samuel, then every one of us, the journey that we have taken to get here, it has been those negative things that we considered negative, those things that have provoked us, those things that made you rise up and make a stand that had gotten you to the place where we are today. So not only does that include your from your upbringing, the journey that you've taken, but it most definitely includes religion and the steps that we have taken to embrace that once we thought it was right. Now to release it and become the Samuel, because the Samuel is talking about a transformation. It's talking about becoming vibration, becoming light, becoming that sound, becoming that part of that the earth needs, and that is in mankind. The other portion of that to look at that I hadn't even looked at yet, but just from a talking point, is when she dedicates him to the priest. Look at the priest, that the two sons of Eli also were necessary. Them that they were evil in the eyes of God. They were greedy. They were everything that you see now in the church. But he was raised alongside of that, and look, at how God brought him out of it. So what I'm saying is, all this stuff that we look at and I guess kind of rail against at times, or at least be distracted by, all of it is necessary to take us to where we are now. And I'm talking a lot. Anyone else think this makes sense?
Ron, but you part that you've already said, could you sort of kind of put it together?
If I can.
From the journey,
okay.
You're going up to
yeah.
That.
I'm looking at this, and as we started, I'm saying that the husband Ephraim was just as Elkanah, was just as important as Hannah was. It is that relationship, that masculine and feminine energy that came together that creates this. So with her weeping and crying bitterly, and him being a part of that, because it talks about his love for her, how close he was for her. So he and she is what produced this energy that I'm calling Samuel. So and I was looking at that and looking at her journey, and talk about how she rose up. And Shiloh is also pretty interesting. Shiloh means to draw out or to extract something. So all of this is a verb. These are action things that are taking place, and again, that are taking place as we speak with us and with mankind, because of what we are doing now. So all the things that we see around us, all the things that we have, you know, the storms, the whatever that seems to be catastrophic, the politics, all of this is a part of the drawing out. All of this is a part of the exposure, so that things can be exposed, so they can be drawn out or pulled out. So that's what I probably didn't answer your question, but that's kind of what I see as this being a journey for us.
No,
and if I didn't answer,
I guess
somebody help me.
that is well, let me put it this way and see if I'm getting what you're saying. Okay.
Okay.
So when we look at this whole story about Elkanah and his two wives, if
Yes.
if we look at that, are we saying that this being an allegory shows us how the masculine energy in the world of spirituality had its hand on both the spiritual aspects of understanding who we are, that would be Hannah, and the spiritual aspects of who we have been, religion, that would be Peninnah. So if that is the case, then are we not saying that when we talk about Hannah, that the womb, when we talk about the womb being closed or being barren, then we're talking about no spirituality being birthed, because it's being overshadowed by Peninnah, by that attitude of it says that they picked at her or they marked her because she could have, right? So is that the mark of religion? When we start talking about what we see the truth to be, is that the marking of religion? Because it has actually, the marking has actually resulted in not hearing from heaven, so to speak, or the womb not being open. And the way it was open was not because Peninnah stopped harassing, but it was open because we finally made a decision, regardless of what happens, we are going to bring into existence an understanding of who we are. And if you give us this understanding, we will share it with everyone for the rest of our lives. Is that kind of sort of along the lines of what you're talking about?
That's better than what I was talking about, especially when you summed up Hannah in her womb. The only thing I want to add is Peninnah, the name means a corner. So in other words, there is no flow. There is no energy flow. There is nothing that can move in a corner. So to look at that, that sums it up beautifully. She represents that part of us that has been the status quo, that has been that has always looked right, because it was important for women in those times it was your femininity being identified if you could have children. So it looked right. It looked like this is what she's supposed to be or what it's supposed to look like, but it was not. So yeah, that sums it up beautifully.
I have a question. How does that relate to religion, what you're talking about, the closed room?
How does that relate to what now?
The closed, you're saying that the womb, Hannah, womb was closed, and my question to you is, how does that relate to religion? Because you can't create anything right then in religion. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat. No, I just want to add this, and I want you to say what you said again. If you notice, listen to what Pastor said, and you're onto something. I like the question, because if you think about all the women from Sarah, all of them that come up, all of them had a closed womb. So I think Pastor answered the mysterious question that I had, that I didn't know the answer to, because I said there's something about this that I don't see yet, the womb part. But I think he answered it in every one of those cases. So if you would, please, Pastor, kind of tie that together again for me, please.
May I say something, Pastor, before you do?
Go right ahead.
Okay. A closed womb signifies no life. Nothing grows there. Nothing is nurtured there. It does not provide nourishment. It's like that corner that Ron described. Nothing flows in and out there. It's stagnant. You're comfortable in your corner. You're comfortable with what you have, with what you know, with what you think, with who you are in your corner. The closed womb signifies no growth. And so, like religion, which has its doctrines and its tenets and all of that stuff and its guidelines and even its bylaws, it's like the church is a circle. And you go round and round and round, and you come back to the same thing over and over and over again. And there is no growth. There is nothing that nurtures you. You get comfortable with the milk that you get fed, and you just go round and round until you want some more milk, kind of thing. So that's the way I see a closed womb and religion. There is no opportunity for expansion, growth, and nourishment. Thank you.
Thank you.
The way I said the last time, the way I see the womb of Peninnah producing and marking the closed womb, I saw that as the womb as being barren, because no one has ever made an effort to understand what's behind the closed womb. And my conclusion comes from Hannah going to the temple and praying, and the womb being given life, meaning that the spiritual understanding of who we are now is available to us being birthed, simply because it is now able to give life because the Creator touched it, or the Creator opened it. And the Peninnah is continuing the circle that she has been in forever, and that is religion itself, producing all this stuff, but the stuff that it is producing does not. It appears as though she is fertile, and just like religion appeared to us to be fertile until we made the decision to seek the truth and to do it with the understanding, if you will open this up to us, we will share it with everyone for as long as we live, and that's the womb being open, and carrying the son back to the temple is our understanding of who we are and beginning to share it with everyone. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah,
And the woman, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I yield.
no, no, you go ahead. You asked the question. I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say the woman that was crying. I was like that, crying because I felt empty until I came to Foundation up under your covering and having a different family. Then it's like the void was being filled. So I can relate to the young lady that was crying and going to the altar every Sunday because she was not getting any results. So I feel that I'm that lady. What was her name? Hannah? The one that was crying? Yeah, I feel like Hannah because I was just crying and everything. But that's all I want to say. Thank you.
I remember some years back, Kathy did a lesson on Habakkuk, and I thought was interesting. He asked God, he said, how long are you gonna, you see all this stuff going on? Of course, I'm paraphrasing, I forgot all the verses, what was going on in that, but, and God answers and says, you know, now he says, I this is what I'll do. You have cried out to me, this is what I'll do. So, and I hope I'm saying the same thing, Pastor, saying at least part of it, that the vow she makes and the prayer is the key to the whole thing. The catalyst, as he has said, was Peninnah, but when she cries out, it opens everything. It's like the Lord says, okay, now is the time. You have just sat back and allowed her to browbeat you all this time, and you cried, but you didn't lift yourself up. You didn't make a stand. You didn't come back to me. So that's what I thought was the catalyst to the whole thing. And again, I hope that ties in to what has already been said.
Ron,
Yeah.
I have a question, or I have a comment question. The thing is, we have to remember that the Creator doesn't forsake us. It's kind of the other way around. And I think what you're talking about Hannah and all is kind of answered in Isaiah 54. And I don't know what all this means, but it's basically saying that, and I'll read a couple of verses so you know what I mean.
Okay.
Isaiah 54, shout for joy, O barren one, you who have borne no child, break forth into joyful shouting and cry aloud, you who have not travailed. For the sons of the desolate one will be more numerous than the sons of the married woman, says the Lord. Enlarge the place of your tent, stretch out the curtains of your dwellings, spare not, lengthen your cords, and strengthen your pegs, for you will spread abroad to the right and to the left, and your descendants will possess nations, and they will resettle the desolate cities. So I think what it's saying is that the Creator won't forsake us. If we hold on, things will not things turn around, but our thinking will turn around eventually. So I think I agree with what you're saying, but Hannah had to just come to a point where her thinking turns around.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway. But Evelyn, I agree with you. I've been in that place too, where I felt like that, and just sort of crying out trying to fill that empty place. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. That added greatly. And that's what I mean. I think this is a journey that we can all relate to. At least I could relate to it when I saw it, and I thought, wow, there's a lot in here. And that part where, Pastor, you guys have saw with the womb, that opened it up. That kind of sealed what it is saying, and again, as already has been said, the Eli, the Samuel is eternal. That light, that vibration, that thing that has captured us is not going away. That sound that comes from you, that sound that you hear, that enlightenment that you are, is not going away. It's only going to increase as we desire it. And the cry is what gave birth to it. The crying out is what gave birth to it. And you become the light of Elohim. And I just saw that, and you look at, again, which I didn't go past chapter 1, but the sons of Eli, and even Eli himself, because Eli had to know that what these priests of his were doing or up to, it takes a lot of things in your life. All of it isn't, but it is the friction, it is the things that make you pray, the things that make you call out, that keeps the motion going. So, and those things, as you become light, becomes more personal. But the more personal doesn't mean they're all yours. Meaning that your cries can be for the woman on television who lost a child, or the car accident that you heard about, or the person who lost their home, or whatever. You have become that has all become a part of you now. The other thing that I saw in this, and then I'm gonna hush again, that I thought in verses 1, this I thought was very very important to say, I guess. This shows me that our creation day and our birthdays are two different things. So my birthday might be in May, but if you look at all these sons of sons of sons of sons of, what it's saying is this righteousness, this holiness was put in motion long before we were all born. So we look at this, and it made me think about the 8th sense as well, because that allows you to travel far beyond your borders. So again, any questions or comments on this or anything else that you see in this?
Ron, what Audrey said just a minute ago, that really resonated with me, because the more I sat up under Pastor teaching, the less I stopped crying about me, and it was for others. Well, I'll just say mankind, because y'all remember I used to cry all the time, and I said, y'all, like, not y'all, but I just like, okay, here I go again, crying again. But Pastor and everyone else explained to me, it's not you who you're crying for, it's for mankind. So as far as with me crying about my situations or what I was going through, or feeling that emptiness, that void, that ceased. Yeah, that has ceased, to be honest with you. I just thought about it. So yeah, Audrey, I relate wholeheartedly about what you just said, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. and if I can add, that is a very real part of our journey, because religion, part of religion was you are to be saved, and my salvation was important to me. I did not see a path to help you or anybody else be saved. That I was taught that these are the things you do to save you, and it's almost like every man needs to have his own lifeboat. But we have been shown, and we that is not the case. That you are every person. You are everything. So that's part of the journey as well. Thank you. I also want to thank everybody who helped unravel this, because I looked at this and I said something here, and I started looking up things, but you guys pulled this together beautifully. There were little bits and pieces that I saw, but when everybody started talking, it all came together, and that's what I love about this group. So I hope it's clear to everybody. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay then. So,
Hey,
yes,
what
sir.
was her husband's name? What was her husband's name?
In the story,
Hannah.
Elkanah. Elkanah.
Okay, when and Elkanah had married both of them, right? And he was having children with one, and he had children by the other one. And Hannah was the one he really loved, right?
Correct.
So if he was a man and he loved her that much, why he didn't go before the Lord and ask the same thing that she had asked, that he wanted children by her?
Somebody
So
help
you
me
know, a
with
man.
it.
Because that's not a part of the allegory. It's not speaking to him asking for a son for her or a child for her or opening her womb. It's for her to do, because if we think about it, the Shekinah is physical, and if this are two representations of what is spiritual and what is natural. I'm not natural. I'm sorry. What is physical manifestation of religion? If they each one of those wombs represent that, then it does not give place for the male to do that. Why? Because the male is responsible for the chaos with Panino, the chaos with religion, and the male does not know anything about spirituality, and so he loves it, he wants it, he says. However, he's not able to open her womb because his focus is on, I love you, however, she's giving me children, that kind of thing. He's trying to please her with things as opposed to with the spirituality. No different than maleness in this male energy makes every effort to fix everything, as long as things are going his way in terms of our religious, political, economic setting in this society. So only the spiritual could open her womb, meaning that there has to be a cry from the Shekinah to the Shekinah for the opening of the womb. Because if the cry is to Elohim, it is both to male and female. It is both to the Shekinah as well as the seed. And now a womb was opened, and the seed of Elkanah was placed in her, meaning that the same seed that religion grew out of is the seed that spiritual understanding comes from. It depends on how you use it. I hope that makes sense.
It makes a little bit more sense.
Someone can probably straighten it up better than I could. Help me.
I can. I like the way you explained it. All I can add is this is spiritual, and this had to take place with the feminine energy. I don't know how to explain it though. It does show though, Charles, how much of a disservice we have done through religion and causing confusion with the scriptures. And I say we, I mean mankind.
I understood. So what you're saying, the female energy is the one gonna have to change the way things been going, the way man's been putting it. I'm just trying to piece it together.
I guess, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, if we when we started, I was trying to say I see this as energy and us being rays of energy, more so than Ron and James and Charles, but the transformation that is taking place is going to expose more the fact that Charles is masculine and feminine. James is masculine and feminine. Ron is masculine and feminine. Barbara is masculine and feminine. So if we can look at it from that perspective, it is that feminine side of us that is the spiritual side, and that is the side that gives birth, that births things out into the world. That excuse me, and that is why it is so important to look at the fact that I keep pointing out that the womb can be masculine and feminine. The womb can produce space and compassion from its masculinity and its femininity. That is, something to look at, to show how much we are spiritual and what all this means, rather than seeing each other individually as people. And I'm probably not helping at all, but I don't know how to explain it, I guess. Can somebody else maybe straighten that out or take another look at it?
I'm getting a little bit.
Charles, would you ask your question again, please?
My question was, both of them women was his wife, and he loved it Hannah more than he did Peanut. I guess that's what her name is saying. And she the one was asking God for that son or whatever. Why did the man didn't do it for her, go up there and ask God for a man child? I mean, he loved her that much.
Interesting, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that, men ain't been doing, and it seems like they need to start getting in touch with their feminine side. Just like if he got in touch with the feminine side and see that she was crying and she was wanting him a son.
But see, Charles, that is the feminine side. That's what I'm saying. You're looking at it as three separate people. And what I'm saying is, in a spiritual sense, this is a transformation of somebody. So there is the two women. It's okay if you pick Charles, and Charles had the two women in Charles. One represents religion, and the other represents the fight for him to be spiritual. That's what this is saying. So you have your masculinity and your feminine side. So the fight in you is the feminine, the religious side has always been dominant and been childbearing, and you have found comfort in that. But you also are finding something that you love about the spiritual side, and you want to see it more, you want to explore it more, you want it to be want to please it, want to please that side of you. So you explore it more. So that's the side that you finally say to yourself, hey, Lord, what is this? What is this I keep feeling? As you've heard Evelyn and Audrey say, Lord, there's an empty side of me. So they cried out. That was their feminine side. Not to pay attention that they are women and they're feminine anyway, but all of us have a feminine and a masculine side. So when you see this, it is him crying. It's not like he's a separate man. It is the feminine side, just like it would be the feminine side of me, the feminine side of you. It's just showing that the two women represents that part of him that is religion, and that part of him that knows that there's something more. Does that help any?
A little bit more better, because what you're saying, that a woman has a masculine side and a woman have a feminine side, and a man have a masculine side and a feminine side. So the feminine side in that man was crying out, just like the woman was crying out God to give her that child.
I think you're still seeing it as separate people, and that's not.
We can't see it as people at all.
Yeah, it's not people. This is all spiritual.
Let me try to help this. Part of the problem with our processing things out of the scriptures is because we have been taught that these are stories like reading a storybook. And these are talking about individuals. That's not it. What happened is the scriptures were passed along through oral stories. So the events of spirituality, they use names of people in order to explain spiritual events. If we keep applying names to the people as though we are talking about a story about us in the natural, that's the problem. However, when we start seeing that this is a spiritual event being explained in earthly ways, Jesus said, how can I tell you about heaven when you don't understand the earth, whatever it was? So if we don't get past seeing these as being a John or a Jane or a Hannah or whomever, we are blinding ourselves to the spiritual. We have to work our way through purging ourselves of the belief that these are people in a story as opposed to a spiritual event that's told in story form. I hope that helps.
It did. It did.
Does it make sense now, Charles?
Yes, it makes sense. I see it more clearly than I did a while ago.
I think there's I don't think we're done with this yet though.
We're not.
Yeah.
Like Reb said, we got to see it in a spiritual way instead of looking at it in a physical way like I was doing. Because all of it is spiritual, and these names were put there for you to try to grasp the earthly way, but I see it now in the spiritual way. I'm done.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else? Well, I tell you what, then this is about almost 7:20, I guess. So what we'll do is call it an evening and start back here, at least have a question. When we go through question Saturday morning, we'll kind of recap this and see if we still have some questions on it. Because it needs to be clear. It does no good if it's not clear. So, thank you for the question, Charles, because that means that there needs to be some more explaining, I suppose. So, thank you. And to everyone else, your input has been greatly appreciated. Your presence on the line has been greatly appreciated. And I really hope you have an extraordinary week. I hope things go well for you and look forward to Saturday. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Bye, guys.